Welcome back to Finalwhistle.ie for episode 8 of the Rugby Show. Joining me this week is Adam McKendry to talk about the upcoming AIL games, Greystones head coach Kevin Lewis and UCC captain Rob Hedderman. We are now joined by our Ulster rugby correspondent Adam McKendry. Adam, welcome back to the show.
Thanks very much, Luke. How are you?
I'm very good. And there was a huge weekend of results in Division 1A, with that top four being confirmed. Young Munster losing out to Ballynahinch 17-10. Cork Con confirmed their place in the top four with a big win over Lansdowne, while Dublin University beat Garryowen. There were also wins for Terranure and Clontarf in that final game week. And we've got two huge semi-finals, Adam. Clontarf against Cork Con, Terranure against Lansdowne. What way do you see them going?
Look, I think the way that Clontarf have played all season, 17 wins, 1 loss, you have to favour them against Cork Con, especially at home. I think they have been the best team all season. Their results only prove that. So I think it wouldn't be too unfair to say that we're expecting Clontarf to be in the final. But at the same time, you can't really, you've got to bear in mind that Clontarf have gone through the season so convincingly that potentially they're a little bit undercooked coming into this semi-final, and we all know that it's all about peaking at the right times for playoffs, and whenever you've had such a season like that, maybe they haven't quite been tested as they would have expected coming in. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach the semi-final, but I still think they'll have too much for Cork Con. And then the other semi-final, to me, that's a toss-up. Terranure are obviously the team in form at the moment, but Lansdowne just have that experience at this level. They've been there, they've done it, they've got the silverware to prove it from years gone by. So they know how to get it done in knockout rugby, and I think that's going to be a really tight one. And we talk about peaking for the playoffs. Terranure have done that pretty well, so that could be the difference between the two teams.
Yeah, and form really does have a lot to say, especially at this time of the season. And how vital do you think is that home advantage as well for Clontarf and for Terranure as well, and particularly Clontarf with Cork Con travelling, making that big travel up to Dublin? Do you think that's going to play a big factor?
Yeah, look, it always makes a big factor whenever you're able to, take your own car to the ground and you're able to rest a bit longer in bed in the morning just to get yourself ready. It makes a massive difference compared to having to jump on a coach and having to do all your stretching, all your prep whenever you get to the ground. So like that only factors more in Clontarf's favour, and similarly in the favour of Terranure, although maybe not quite so much given the difference in travel. But I would imagine that it's going to go the way of the two home teams. But in the second semi-final especially, I think it's a real toss-up. It could depend who has the better day, and certainly at this stage I would back Terranure based on how they've gone in recent weeks. But again, don't count out Lansdowne.
And then down the other side of the table in that relegation playoff, University College Cork against Ballynahinch. And good win for Ballynahinch at the weekend, 17-10 over Young Munster. And who do you think is going to be the one that's going to slip down?
Well, look, obviously with my Ulster hat on, I'm hoping not Ballynahinch, but it would be massive for Ulster to still have a team in Division 1A. And I think Ballynahinch, similarly to Terranure, not quite to the same level, of course, but Ballynahinch have just kind of hit that little bit of form at this stage of the season. They've just found that's something that's got them a couple of wins, that's moved them up into 9th as opposed to 10th. And just something even slightly mental as that could have that little bit of an impact going into a game like this. Just having that second leg at home, I think it's going to be a massively important part. So look, again, you'll probably call me biased, but I'll say Hinch will stay up. But again, this one's very close to call because those two have sort of been dicing down at the bottom for so long.
And then moving down to Division 1B, and that top four was confirmed over the weekend. City of Armagh lost out to Banbridge 28-18. Naas beat Old Belvedere. Malone had a heavy win over Navan. Shannon with another heavy win over Old Wesley. And then finally St. Mary's College losing out narrowly to Highfield. And similarly enough to Division 1A, the semi-finals, they're mouth-watering fixtures. You have Old Wesley against Naas, and then Byfield against Shannon, and that has been like the 4 teams there that they've been playing some terrific rugby all season. Who do you back to go up?
I don't know why, but I like Shannon. Just again, that experience of having been there and done it. I think that to me, like whenever you say Shannon, you do think top tier team, and I think you might see that in the playoffs. Like Old Wesley have been a great team all year, but it's a lot closer in 1B than it is in 1A. In my opinion, I think there's very much of a muchness, and it could be that home advantage in this round has much more of an impact than up in 1A. Like I think Clontarf are probably going to win in 1A regardless of where they're playing, but I would say in 1B it could be that Old Wesley and Highfield have the home advantage that it could be the difference. But something just tells me that Shannon are going to pull it out.
Yeah, and they've hit some serious form, and obviously that win over Old Wesley at the weekend. And we had one of the Shannon players on last week, and he was just saying how driven the squad is and how much they're relishing the fact to go back up to 1A. And I suppose Nace are another maybe dark horse of the side, another big win at the weekend then as well. And is it one of them ones where you could actually probably pick one of the 4 on the day who could really go up?
Absolutely. And I think something that you mentioned there is very key in that Shannon are very driven to go back up, having tasted 1A for quite a while and then dropping down, the desire to get back up and just have that prestige of being called a 1A team is a massive carrot for these guys. So I would imagine that they are very much driven to be back up. And look, some of the other teams will be really excited to get the chance to go up. Naas, I think, are just, they're maybe one of those teams that are like a year away from potentially really being in the conversation. It's great that they're in the playoffs, and that anything can happen whenever you get to this stage. I'm not saying they're definitely not going to go up, but they're maybe just one of those teams that needs another year to mature in 1B and then be ready to make that jump. And
then down at the bottom, it's Navan against Banbridge, but Banbridge with a big win over City of Armagh in that final game of the season, and they've been impressive at stages, but I think it's consistency. It's very hard to find, and when you're not consistent in divisions like this, it is going to hurt you. But do you think that they'll be too strong for Navan? I think they will be. Look, Banbridge had a really tough start to the season. They waited a long time for their first win. They were really just struggling to find any kind of consistency, as you say, and whenever they found it, or they found a little bit of it, you started to see some of the results that they really felt that this team was capable of. Unfortunately, not enough to avoid the relegation playoff, but I think they'll have enough for Navan. I think there's enough quality in that team that they'll get the win done this time, and hopefully they'll have a better year in 1B next season. And then Malone obviously confirmed their spot in 1B for next year with a heavy win over Navan, 64-24. And have you got a chance to watch many of their games, or have you been impressed with them? I haven't managed to get down to any of their games in a while. I got to one at the start of the season, but haven't been back for a while. But they're a team that naturally, I think a lot of journalists up north will follow because they've got quite a lot of Ulster guys involved. I know Aaron Sexton has been lighting it up for them in a few of the games that he's played. I think the biggest thing with Malone is that consistency of player, because they have a few guys who drop in, drop out because they're involved with Ulster. And being part of 1B, I think, is a good experience for them, just being able to secure their place for next year. And look, now they can look ahead to next season and start thinking about recruitment, how they start to bridge the gap between 8th place and maybe sneaking into a playoff spot next season. It's a big jump, but I think there's potential there. Like they have the prestige of being Malone. Malone are a very recognisable name, especially in Ulster Club Rugby and Ireland. I think they're quite a recognisable name as well. So I think they'll be very happy just to have finished outside of the relegation spots, and now they can look ahead to next season. And then moving down to Division 2A, and Queen's University look to be runaway leaders, and if it was any other season in the AIL, they would have confirmed that spot in Division 1B. But there was a shock result at the weekend, losing 33-17 to Ballynahinch. Cashel lost out to Buccaneers 43-38. MU Barnhall also fell to a defeat at the hands of Nina Old Crescent beat Rainy Old Boys, and finally Dolphin beating UL Bohemian. I think the interesting thing about that weekend was Cashel against Buccaneers, a bit of a dress rehearsal for one of the semi-finals, and the same with Queens and Ballymena. And do you think that there's a bit of mind games going on, not playing full-strength teams, not to give away everything ahead of the semi-finals?
I was going to say the cynic in me says that there was maybe a gentleman's agreement of we we let you win, you guys sneak into the playoffs, and then we do it for real next week. I am only joking, by the way. That's not how they do things. But look, I definitely think Queens held some things in reserve. I think you definitely don't want to show your hand in case Ballymena was the team that they were going to play in the playoffs, as it has proven they're going to be. So it is actually set up really, really interestingly. Like looking at the table there, the fact that the two teams that played each other last week in both games end up being the semi-finals just has that little bit more intrigue to it. And to be honest, yeah, I think it does actually favour Queens and Cashel quite considerably that they were able to essentially hold some stuff in reserve. They were able to conserve their energy going into this week, knowing that they didn't have to win. They were already guaranteed of their spot in the table. So I would imagine those two are probably going to be in the much better position going into this week, and that'll probably be what is the difference between themselves and Buccaneers and Ballymena. And
surely it is Queens to lose, and they've been a cut above the rest, I think, at stages this season. And I think they'd match a lot of them 1B sides as well, and I think they really do deserve to go up. But it's in this format, you never really know. And like you were saying earlier on, that like the experience really counts. But do you think Queens can push on and go up to 1B?
Absolutely, and I think they're probably cursing their luck that it wasn't a normal season, and as it goes for every team that finished first this year. But under the new format, that's the way it goes. But look, Queens, I think we have known from a very early stage, are the best side in 1B this year. I know Ballymena were kind of keeping pace with them for a little bit during the season, but they were really just hanging on to the coattails, and then eventually the form showed and Queens pulled away a little bit, and eventually Ballymena dropped down to fourth. So the Queens very much benefit from a lot of people who want to come and study and also play rugby, and like all the university teams. And I would certainly think that they are a side that, if they can get that link with Ulster going a little bit more, where Ulster say to guys, because Ulster Rugby are very big on pushing for guys to do their degrees while they're in the academy. If they can convince them to go to Queens and they can build up Queens' team at the same time, then there's every possibility that Queens could start to build a really strong squad, especially over the next few years.
Yeah, and they definitely have the potential to match the likes of UCD, Dublin University, UCC, who are all very top division sides, and there's no reason why they can't maybe kick on, especially to get this promotion and attracts more people. And then down the bottom, then Rainy Old Boys against Nina in the relegation playoff, and that's another one that could go either way. How do you think about that?
Tough season for Rainy. It really has been. Like you look at that points difference of minus 285, and you just sort of realize how many big defeats that they've had this season. And that for me is the concern. If their defense can't really stand up to pressure in the first leg, then it could be a long trip to Nina in the second leg. So I think it all depends how they come out of that first leg. Have they given themselves a chance to pull out a result away from home? I would like to hope that they can stay up again, Ulster hat on and whatnot, but I think Nina just have the attack that can really punch holes in a defense that doesn't have a lot of confidence. So I think Nina are probably going to get it done.
Yeah, and I think Nina, especially the form they're in, and a big win over MU Barnhall at the weekend, 45-28. And Barnhall aside, just narrowly missing out on that top four as well. I think that really speaks for itself that Nina maybe underachieved this season.
As I said, it's still a great attack. You talk about the fact that they're putting up more points than the two teams above them. They put up more points than Cashel this season going forward. it was just the defense didn't stand up quite as well. So Nina, to me, I would agree, are a team that have underperformed, but I think if they manage to get the job done this week, then again, sort of similar to Malone, as I was saying in 1B, they're a team that can sort of restock, refresh for next season, and they would like to hope that their fortunes would be a bit better next season.
And then moving on to a very, very competitive division 2B, and at the final day of the season, there was 5 teams that had a chance of that top 4, and Wanderers were the ones who did miss out, even though they did beat Sligo 46-10. Belfast Harlequins sealed their second place finish after a 47-33 win over Malahide. Galway Corinthians confirmed their top 4 spot with a win over Blackrock College. Greystones sealing that first place finish with a 19-7 win over Dungannon. And Galwegians beating Ballynahinch, and obviously the two of them are going to play again in that relegation playoff. But first of all, with semi-finals, Belfast Harlequins, Blackrock College, and Belfast Harlequins, they've impressed me this second half of the season, and they seem to always be well up for them games with the other top sides, and they came out on top more times than not.
It's actually quite funny. We get texts through every week with score lines, and it was just sort of like, as we got to the latter half of the season, I was just sort of scrolling back through them, and it was like, these are all wins. Just looking at all the wins racking up as the text came in. Look, these semi-finals are a coin flip. They really are. Like, look at how close those teams are. I don't think there's much between all of them, and it genuinely is just who turns up on the day. And I think that's what we want with the semi-finals. We want the semi-finals to be to decide which of these teams are just able to do it when the chips are down, whenever you need the games to be won. So I wouldn't say Greystones are guaranteed to go up because they finished first and they have home advantage. I don't think Galway Corinthians are in any way less likely to go up than the teams above them. If Wanderers had gotten into the playoffs, I wouldn't have said they were in any way behind the other teams in terms of their chances of going through. So I think it's going to be a cracking semi-final setup in 2B. I'm really excited for this one. And again, Ulster hat on. I really hope Quins do it. And look, with the form they're in, I would say they probably are maybe just favourites. But look, it's so close in this in 2B.
Yeah, it really is. And I think Quins have really stepped up everything, even off the pitch. If you look at their media output, the stuff they're doing in clubhouse stuff, and it seems to be a club that's really grown. What's it like for you being up there, kind of closer to it than I am, and does it seem like a real happening place?
Well, one of the things that is really noticeable is just how much they're trying to encourage people into the club. You know, they're getting people like Chris Henry, Craig Gilroy, Will Addison, Nathan Doak. They're coming to get, or they're getting those guys to come and speak at their after game dinners. They're having a lot of incentives to try and bring people in. I've been down a few times. Darrenmore's a great wee setup. They've got a great clubhouse there. They've got all the hockey pitches as well. So it's not just a rugby ground. They're really trying to combine a load of sports together and try and have that sort of cross-community aspect to it. So it's been fantastic to see what they've been doing there, and just the desire for the on-pitch to improve as well. They've got Paddy McAllister there, former Ulster prop, former Connacht prop, played in Gloucester and Grenoble as well. So, you know, they've really tried to up what they're doing there after a few seasons where they have just been sort of treading water almost, and they've just been staying pat in 2B. They've really made a conscious effort to try and drive themselves back up, and it's going to take time for them to do so. You know, even if they get promotion this year, they've still got a ways to go to get back up to the top level that they want to be at. But you can see the impact that they're trying to have. You can see the effort that they're making to move up. And I think it's fantastic to see. And a lot of clubs could take note and try and do similar.
And then down the bottom, it's going to be between Ballynahinch or Galwegians that are going to go down. And I think Regions have been a side that no one really expected to be bottom of the pile, and they've been there pretty much since the first couple of weeks. But they did beat Ballynahinch last week, 20 points to 14. And it's quite strange, that kind of rehearsal. We were talking about it before. They've been playing now, and then they have another 2 games to play. Do you see Galwegians staying up, or do you think Ballynahinch will hang on?
We said, you know, in the 2A, sorry, about how, you know, sort of the dress rehearsals for the semi-finals and holding some stuff back. I think there was probably a degree of that with Ballina, even though they. Sorry, I was going to say there if Ballina could have gotten above Malahide, but I think whenever you just look at what Ballina could have done at the weekend, I think maybe they've got a little bit more in the tank, but we all know Galwegians. I'm going to go for them. I think just there is, again, that little bit of know-how just to get the big games over the line, even if they haven't done it this season that many times.
Yeah. And then finally with Division 2C, and that was actually the only division where the top four was confirmed before the final set of fixtures. Skerries beating Omagh Academicals 22 points to 21, and Escorty overcoming Middleton 29-24. Sunday's well narrowly beating Clonmel 25-24. And then there was a big win for City of Derry over top four team Tullamore 49-28. And finally Bangor beating Brough 38-20. So Enniscorthy beat Tullamore, Skerries against Bangor. And I suppose if you have been watching 2C, Enniscorthy have been a class above really since the season kicked off, and I think I would be very surprised myself if they didn't overcome Tullamore, especially them just finishing in fourth place.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I think this is Enniscorthy's to lose, and if they didn't go up, it would be a massive shock. I think the only real question this week is who are they going to play between Skerries and Bangor, who are very much of a muchness in second and third, and I think that's one again where home advantage is going to play a massive effect in who's going to win that one. But yeah, I think if Enniscorthy weren't the team going up, then it would be a massive upset.
Yeah, it really would. And then in that relegation playoff, City of Derry, despite their huge win over Tullamore, find themselves in a relegation battle against Clonmel. And do you think that they could be the ones dropping out, obviously with Estonians coming in after being Bective? Do you think it could be one Ulster team up, one down?
Again, I hope not. But look, that kind of a win for City of Derry will do them a massive amount of confidence going into this game. Whenever you've had the season that you've had, and you're maybe not carrying a lot of confidence in, you're having to G yourself up. I don't think they're going to have many conversations in the dressing room to G themselves up after a win like that. That's kind of one of those ones that gives you sort of a slap around the face and says, no, come on, let's do this. We can do this. Now you look at the result that we've had. We are a team that can pull off results like that. So let's go and do it again.
Absolutely. Then just one thing on Estonians, and after their win over Bective, back into the AIL, and how good is that for you? Obviously, like you're saying, with your Ulster hat on, to see another side performing at the highest level.
I think it's almost a relief more than anything else. Like, Estonians have had so many shots at getting back into getting into the All Ireland League that you almost felt like they were forever going to be the bridesmaid and never the bride, and they were just going to keep going into the round robin and never get up. So to actually get over the line and finally do it, it's fantastic to see. I couldn't be happier for Clem Boyd and the guys who are down there and the work that they've been doing. I know Lee Ludic's been doing some work down there as well now that he's retired from the professional game. So delighted to see that it all came off for them. And look, they are a team that have had these aspirations for a while. They've been preparing to go up to the All Ireland League for a while. So they're not coming up and they're going to be starstruck. They know what's required of them whenever they get up to Division 2C, and they've already been talking about the plans that they've got, and they've already started thinking about players that they could bring in to help them stay up in 2C. So they're not coming up just to make up the numbers and get a taste of it and say, right, this is what we need. They are already talking about what they can do up in 2C, and I think that's the exciting for Ulster Club Rugby, is that these teams aren't just sitting back and going, well, we're happy with where we are. You know, like Belfast Harlequins trying to push up by doing all these things within the club, like Estonians coming up and immediately having plans to make a splash in 2C rather than just try and avoid relegation for a year. That's the more exciting part for me.
Yeah, and it was one thing when I was actually watching that game, I thought probably Bective and Estonians themselves, they're probably a lot better than a couple of sides in that 2C, and I suppose that would hurt Bective. Great coaching staff there as well. Bernard Jackman was doing a great job with them this year, but that must hurt to fall at that final hurdle. But do you think it'll be difficult for them to go again, or do you think that you could see them maybe making that push next year?
Well, to use Estonians as the example, Estonians seem to drag themselves back up and get going again for the next season, even though they had 3 setbacks over the last few years. So I think, getting a taste of getting that close will only inspire them to try and do it again. I don't think you can possibly come away from being that close to going up to the All Ireland League and not kind of have that fire put under you to try and do it again and go one step further, because they know how it is. Like, we've seen enough finals where coaches will get their players to sort of stay out on the pitch and watch the trophy being given out. I'm sure that Bektiv will have been watching those celebrations that Estonians had at the weekend, and they'll be thinking to themselves, that's got to be us next year. And if they're not being driven on by that, then they don't deserve to go up to the All Ireland League.
Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure again. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Luke.
Joining me now on the Rugby Show is Greystone Rugby Club head coach Kevin Lewis. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Luke. Good to be here.
And you've had an absolute brilliant season so far. Are you happy with the overall performance to date?
Yes, it's been a good season overall. I mean, obviously we had 1 or 2 blips along the way, but I suppose we ended up top of our league, which was, I suppose, as much as probably could be expected of any team. And I suppose just a slight disappointment that doesn't, which would in a normal year bring us promotion, automatic promotion, doesn't automatically bring us that. But sure, here we go again.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose if I bring you back to the start of the season, when you maybe sat down as a group, what were your goals for the lads at the start of the campaign?
Well, bear in mind the last 2 years have been sort of non-entities, and so I suppose there wasn't much focus for anybody other than to try and get our promotion. Right from the very beginning, I suppose we were hurting from the year before when we got relegated, and we felt we were deservedly of being in Division 2A. So we're hoping that this year we'll put that to rights.
And then, like, first half of the season, as you mentioned earlier, you were runaway leaders. And was it difficult to maybe keep the motivation there for the lads when you saw that huge point gap, let's say, to second or whatever? But was it difficult to kind of keep the head screwed on for the whole time when you're so far ahead at one stage?
It's really hard. We tried to analyse that ourselves to know what really was the situation. I mean, one of the things that happened was we were unbeaten, as were 3 other teams in the AIL on the Friday evening before the last set of games before Christmas, when the decision was announced that the first team weren't going to automatically get promoted, and all 3 teams lost that Saturday. So draw your own conclusions from that. I think there was definitely a bit of a motivation kick there. And, it's like everything else. I mean, everybody in this league is very competitive and every game is very tough. And just because we happen to get over the line in some tight games early in the year didn't necessarily mean that we're going to be able to do that every week. And the real world in AIL rugby is that doesn't happen. So, the teams that beat us are by and large in the playoffs. So we know that the teams that beat us are very competitive, and we know that we're going to be looking at them again if we're going to make our way through this playoff setup,
And you have a great mix of kind of youth with the experience in your side. And how important is that for you as a coach to have that right balance?
Well, one of the beauties of the setup in Greystones is that we have a huge number of home-grown players. So, for instance, in our squad last Saturday in Dungannon, 17 would have played underage rugby in Greystones, which means that you have that core base of people who really want to be there. It's their club, and there's no mixed message, and then when other players come in, they buy into that, and that makes it kind of successful, I suppose. So, over the last few years, it has been a very positive environment to be in, and with a bit of luck, the lads will get the reward that they deserve if they can manage to get through the next 2 matches.
And another thing that I've noticed kind of from the squad is how good your squad depth is. And I think in a season and in a league which is as competitive as Division 2B, if you get a few injuries, like I know Danny Kenny was injured for a while, same with Ferdy and Conor McAleer, how important is it having that squad depth and having them players from, let's say, the J1s that you can call on?
It's everything. I mean, really, it's been an aspiration for the club for a long time to have competitiveness at all levels within the club. I mean, you go down there now on a Tuesday or Thursday night, you'll see 40-odd players in the first stroke second squad and a similar number in third stroke fourth. And that's why Like the Forts have won their league just recently there. The thirds have been successful. The seconds were very unfortunate to lose their league final by a point last week. And, I would say there's 30 players competing for the 15 starting slots in the first team, and that is very healthy. Not great news for some players at times, but ultimately you won't win anything without having a strong squad. And I mean, players I think appreciate the fact that if they are injured or for whatever reason not available, that the player standing in will be a very, very good replacement, possibly even better.
And with the numbers just kind of growing and growing, even at the youth section for Greystones, where would you see the club being maybe inside the next 3 to 5 years? Do you think you can really contest up them higher divisions in the AIL?
Yeah, no, the club is going very well at the moment, and I think even this weekend, we have this midweek we have some underage girls playing for Ireland, and the ladies team themselves are doing very well. So overall, it's been a very positive kind of environment. I think the club, with the whole environment of the area, like North Wicklow growing exponentially at the moment, that the aim of the club would really be to climb the divisions. With a huge number of players playing their rugby outside of Greystones, coming from very good rugby playing schools and backgrounds, and we'd like them to come back and play with us and to help us to get to the top tier of Irish rugby, where I think we can reach.
And then a massive game obviously coming up inside the next couple of weeks against Galway Corinthians, and you did lose them a few weeks ago, but you did beat them fairly handily at Dr. Ricky Park at the start of the season. So how are preparations going for that?
Yeah, well, I suppose the first thing we I know it's the old cliche, but every game is taken one at a time, and we focused right now up to the Dungannon game to make sure that we could end up top of the league, and which guaranteed us the home semi-final, and if we were to win the semi-final, home final. So the focus this week now is obviously on Corinthians, and they're a very, very talented team. I think they've upwards around 5 or thereabouts Connacht Academy players there, and some players on their backline have played on the Connacht senior team this season, so a very, very talented team, a very, very fast team with some very attritional forwards as well. So it's going to be some challenge. And yes, you're right, we've beaten them. They've beaten us. It's been that kind of topsy-turvy for a few seasons now. So neither team will take either for granted, and hopefully it'll be a very good game on the day.
And you mentioned just there as well about that home advantage, and how vital was that to you going into that game against Dungannon, was to just secure that semi-final in Dr. Ricky Park?
Well, I suppose maybe that's somewhere in the back of your mind, but I think the first motivation is to win the league. I mean, as far as we're concerned, we won the league last Saturday, and we wouldn't apologise for saying that. That's been the way of the leagues forever, and I suppose that was number one priority, and obviously the bonus of that is to get home semi-final. But the fact that it's a home match doesn't necessarily mean anything. Corinthians are going to come well prepared for that game, and we've got to be doubly well prepared. So it's going to we're going to be put to the pin of our collar to do anything there, and we know that. But at the same time, it's nice to have. We have a good buzz in Greystones on a match day. I hope you've been there yourself a few times to see that, and I know you have been. And I think we have a fantastic pitch there, and a great credit to our groundsman Willie Byrne. And what we like to do is to play a brand of rugby that is flexible, fluid, and move teams around. And the atmosphere there suits us. So I'd like to think that on the day. And I'd like to invite as many people from the area to come out and support us and give the lads a shout out on the day, and hopefully get us over the line.
And that is one thing that I've noticed massively, let's say, when I've been covering games or whatever, is that fluid rugby you play, that fast flowing. And is that something that yourself and Paul and the lads, you look at a lot of the time, is just to play that quick rugby?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually this year now, we were the second highest scorers in the AIL. And I suppose that wasn't a surprise. But it's like everything else, though. You play to your strengths, and we have strengths, and we have a lot of pace. And we use that, and we also like to play that way. I mean, that's the way that rugby probably should be played, and we'd like to think that that we work on our skills there to allow us to maybe play that way. So, yeah, the coaching group of myself, Warren, with Keane and Danny Kenny, and our managers like Paul and Carl and Peter Whistler, people like that. We've a very strong backroom team as well, with Jack Lawrence, who does our strength and conditioning, and Cameron, who looks after the physio. And these people all work really hard together to ensure that we we can put together a team on a Saturday that is able to play that kind of game, and all that is directed through Barry Keeley, who's our director of rugby, and he emphasises that desire as well, that all the teams will play that kind of game, So I suppose we're not going to change from that, but we'd like to think that we can also compete regardless of the conditions and regardless of the challenges put up to us. So we can take anybody on up front, we can go wide, or we can play a mix of both,
And you have a very strong backbone of coaching and staff helping out. But where did your journey in rugby start?
How many years have we got here, Luke, to talk about that? It started a long time ago in Boring, County Offaly, and worked his way through Nina and through. Actually, I played in Greystones back in the mid-80s and left there. I went and started a coaching journey after playing in Railway Union, Tullamore, back to Rangers, and then to Greystones. So it's been a bit of a trip along the way. But it's great to be back coaching close to where I live, and a club that I think has a fantastic future and a place I really love being at.
It really does. And thanks so much for joining us, Kevin. It's been a pleasure having you on, and hopefully you can get over the line and get up to Division 2A.
Really appreciate that, Luke. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Joining us now is UCC captain Rob Hedderman. Rob, welcome to the Rugby Show.
Cheers. Thanks for having me, Luke. Great to be here. Looking forward to it.
And obviously a couple of huge games coming up over the next couple of weeks. And then starting off with that away game to Ballynahinch. How are you feeling ahead of that?
Yeah, it's a huge game. Big few weekends ahead of us, with the home and away tie, going up there having them at home first and then going up there after is quite difficult, but massively exciting week for the club to keep the 1A status, which is so important for clubs at this stage, to kind of be at that competitive level. So it's exciting because, admittedly, it's probably not in the place where a club ever wants to be, but it's really exciting at the same time.
And you've had a win against them already away from home, and does that kind of play into your minds a bit and give the squad a bit of confidence?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a boost, knowing that we can go up travel far up to the north and come back with a win is massive. We were unfortunate to lose out to them when they came down to us and in the second half of the season, but definitely it's a performance that we can look to build on when we beat them up there and take a lot of confidence from it.
And it has been a very difficult season so far. And in terms of the mood around the camp and in the changing room, has confidence been drained at all, or is there still high spirits?
Yeah, it's tough. Definitely, it's tough. Not to get a win every weekend. You're coming back, it's another loss again. But look, I can't fault the players' application and attitude for the whole season. There's just guys are there to play rugby and play high standard rugby, and there's a really good positive attitude every time we show up to training. Guys looking to compete with each other, compete first places on the weekend. So yeah, it's been tough, but I think attitude has been absolutely brilliant from each of the players.
And you spoke about the attitude there, but what kind of areas do you think you do need to improve for the next couple of games, and that can really get you over the line?
Yeah, so I would definitely think our physicality and being physical in the point of contact is massive for us. From an attack point of view, you have to be going forward, have to keep the ball moving. So if we can get our point of contact right, look to create quick ball for ourselves, it would really it'll really just tell for us. It'll give us a good attacking platform. If we've got a good attacking platform, who knows what can happen from there. But yeah, we have to get that right.
And in terms of kind of training, is that something that you focus on a lot, and maybe around set pieces and stuff? Or what does a week in training for UCC kind of look like?
Yeah, so a lot of time it's kind of reviewing what's gone on the weekend before, and whether it's kind of attack in the 22 or defense in the middle third of the pitch. It's going to be reflect that where we've kind of fallen down from the weekend. So definitely on the point of contact, we do a lot of work around breakdown, trying to make sure that we get that right for the weekend, and looking at our detail there. It's varied, but it's a lot of time it's varied because it has to be based on the previous week's performance.
So analysis is massive, I suppose, at the level you're playing at. And kind of what is that analysis like? Is it maybe looking at your own individual games, or kind of where you could do better and stuff? Or kind of what is that analysis session like?
Yeah, so a lot of the analysis it's done online. It's kind of very hard to fit that in during the week, especially with college students. Guys are different timetables all over the place a lot of the time. So online we'll be given clips and have to review the clips ourselves, and then everyone's expected to review the game, at an individual level and then at a collective level. So a lot of the time the coaches are feeding back clips to us, take a look at kind of set piece and kind of working out in different areas that we can improve on. So and then it's quite evident when you see that being reflected in training. And yeah, so I think a lot of the time the analysis is it's put on individuals to make sure that it's done themselves. Then it really does come to fruition then when you see it in training.
And like you mentioned there, obviously a master's student yourself, where do you find the time to keep playing this such high level of sport and then juggling it with studies as well?
Yeah, I suppose you just kind of, I've been doing it since I've come into college as a first year, and now in my final year of college. Like it's just one of those things you get used to. It's kind of like second nature at the minute. You kind of once or twice you'll slip up at the start. You forget this or forget that to be in a certain place at certain times. So you just organize yourself. It's kind of just by making the mistakes and learning from them, not letting them happen again. You make sure you know what you're going, where you're going every day of the week. What you have to do, what you have to bring. So you just kind of get used to it as much as you can.
And there's some really high quality teams in the league, and you've got to share the pitch with them a couple of times this season. And out of everyone you've played against, who's the strongest you've played against, and who would you maybe be backing to win the overall?
Yeah, I think it's this year especially. It's been really, really competitive. Kind of having the league return after COVID's been great, and so it's been absolutely great to have the league back, and the competitiveness is absolutely exceptional. So you've got Clontarf there as well. You can't look past them with the run that they've had. They've just been picking up win after win after win. And then you've Terranure and Lansdowne, who both are really, really good side and really well-oiled machines that know what they're doing. Out of the top three of them, it's hard to look past Lansdowne or Clontarf, sorry, for the title. But then I kind of, having just played Terranure at the weekend and seeing their offload game, how comfortable they are with their own game plan as well, it really could be anyone's day if we come the semi-finals and finals. And yeah, I don't know. And then I suppose kind of if you're thinking outside of the top four as well, I've been really impressed by how Trinity play and the style of play that they do as well. They picked up some really, really big wins throughout the season as well. So yeah, it's really exciting. You've got Con in there as well, which is good to see a Cork side, even though they be local rivals. It's good to have a Cork side in there as well. But yeah, I just think it's far too hard to look past Clontarf to get the title because of how good they've been going. I think they're only one loss so far this season, so being able to see those wins after wins after wins, winning's a habit, and it looks like they've got a good one.
It really is. And then in terms of maybe your rugby career before you went to UTC, where did you start off, and what was your club?
So I started off when I was 7 years of age on Sunday as well, playing underage. I kind of just gone out with my friends, wanted to try and find how if the sport was good. Did I prefer it over GAA? And evidently I didn't. And then I suppose after that I went into Christians in Cork, and we played Junior Cup, played Senior Cup, and then just grew from there. So it was kind of came to the end of my time in Christians. I kind of had been playing Senior Cup for a few years. Won one of the Senior Cups, and just kind of thinking, where can I best get the most game time at the highest level? So I think it was the obvious choice to go off and play with UCC. The club had just been promoted to Division 1A. A lot of exciting players in the club, and it just seemed like the right fit at the time. When you go into UCC, they've got a fantastic under-20 setup. A lot of the time, they're kind of competing in and around for the Donald Walsh from Munster, and then they go to Fraser McMullen for the Leinster title as well. So it just seemed like a good fit after college.
And we do a lot of coverage on the school stuff with the Final Whistle. How big was that kind of into helping you become the player you are, and like that buzz around the place when you're playing Junior Cup or Senior Cup? What was that like?
Yeah, it's massive. It's the buzz and the excitement around cup time is just it's something else, and it's kind of something you'll never experience again. Playing with your best mates from school is just it's I remember coming towards the end of my time when I was playing in school, and a lot of older people saying, look, you'll never have rugby like this ever again. And to a certain extent, it's true. And then I came to UCC, and it kind of it almost mimicked that because you're playing with a lot of guys who are in around the same age as you, and you're kind of going through the same thing as well with college and studies. But in terms of shaping me as a player, it was brilliant. Kind of learning my trade of fullback, understanding how to play the game was massive, and it's the foundations for what type of player you're going to be. Just little details that you kind of that comes when you step up to a higher level of a senior cup team that you have to know is kind of massive for me, and it's those little details that I would try to bring into my game, in terms of positioning and reading the game and that kind of thing.
And it's one of them things a lot of other people spoke about, maybe that they didn't get the chance to play schools rugby or whatever, and then when they went to make that step to the AIL, that it was quite a big step. For you, did you feel like it kind of you eased in slightly, or was it still a big jump going from where you were to playing in Division 1A?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely did help playing at a high standard. Having a crowd there is massive. If going to somewhere like the Cookies on a Friday night, where I made my debut in the first division when I was in the first year in UCC, having that kind of knowing that the crowd and the buzz that kind of comes with the Limerick environment and the hostility of it was really, really beneficial when I first played for UCC. It really did help me kind of put that to the back of my mind and just focus on my game. So yeah, I mean, it's the high level understanding the pace of the game as well. Now, in saying that, there was nothing that would have prepared me for playing senior rugby when I was in first year of college. It was a baptism of fire. I remember thinking I was completely unfit after playing a load of games before that, just with the pace of the game that it came at the time. So yeah, senior cup definitely did help me. It kind of, especially in terms of the crowd, it helped me bring out the best of myself and kind of living off the crowd's hostile environment, definitely. And yeah, the step up was huge, but it did make it easier.
And then just finally, to end on a bit of a quick fire round like that we like to do here. So if I was to ask you the best passer you've ever played with, who would you say to me?
I'd say John Poland.
Best kicker?
James Taylor, who's playing with Highfield at the minute.
Tackler?
It's got to be one of those guys who are a bit mental upstairs who just kind of turn it on every week, Like Connor Booth at the minute now is just chopping everything, so he's one of the guys who'll be up there.
And then leader?
I would say Dara Feeney. He was captain of UCC when I came in at the start. He really helped me to feel welcome in the squad. And he's been a great captain and friend.
And then finally, rugby brain. Was there anyone that was maybe just could see a couple of phases ahead, or knew what was coming, or just had a great IQ for the game?
Yeah, playing with Peter Sylvester for the first couple of years of my time in UCC. He's playing first centre now for Terranure, and they're going so well. Yeah, he's got a really good rugby brain, kind of one of those people who knows what to do in the right areas of the pitch at the right time. It's just kind of thinking a couple of steps ahead, as you say. He seemed to have that.
Rob, thank you so much, and all the best for the upcoming games that you have, and hopefully we'll be talking soon, and you'll still be in 1A.
Cheers, Luke. Thanks a million. Appreciate it. Thanks
very much. Sadly, that is all we have time for here tonight, but make sure to join us next Wednesday at the same time, where we'll be joined by Justin Middleton to take an in-depth look at the upcoming semi-finals. Thanks for now.